Chasing Degas by Eva Montanari. It was our last rehearsal before the recital. We'd practiced the ballet so many times that I could dance it in my sleep. In my bag, I had packed my new tutu. I couldn't wait to wear it on my big night. Monsieur Degas had just left the opera house. He was an artist who often painted the ballet students while we practiced. I ran to his easel to see what he had worked on. He had painted me right in the foreground. While I was scratching my back, I was so embarrassed. I went to my bag so that I could try on the tutu, but when I opened it, I found a big surprise. It was full of Monsieur Degas' paints. We must have accidentally taken each other's bags. I rushed out of the opera house and into the pouring rain. I had to find Monsieur Degas before the performance. I stopped under an awning to shield myself from the rain. There was another painter. "Excuse me, but have you seen Monsieur Degas?" I asked. "He is a painter too." "Oh yes, I know Monsieur Degas, but I haven't seen him today," the man answered. "I've been very busy painting this street, trying to capture this moment before the rain stops." "I must find Monsieur Degas right away," I said. "Perhaps my friend who is staying in the hotel room up there has seen him. He has very sharp eyes and never misses anything." He shouted up to the window, "Monsieur Monet, can you help this little ballerina?" Monsieur Monet put his head out the window. "What did you say, Monsieur Cabot?" "Have you seen Monsieur Degas?" Monsieur Cabot asked. Monsieur Monet pointed at a dot on his canvas. "But of course," he said. "Right here. I saw him walking down the boulevard and added him to my painting. But he isn't at the end of the street now because time passes." "Do you know where he was going?" I asked. "Why don't you go to the Moulin de la Galette?" he said. "Perhaps he went for some lunch." Monsieur Monet replaced his canvas on his easel. "The rain has stopped and the light has changed. I must start a new painting." "Thank you, Monsieur Monet and Monsieur Cabot," I said as I continued on. The sun was shining when I reached the Moulin de la Galette. There I saw a man painting on a large canvas, and beside him was Monsieur Degas. People were dancing all around the cafe. All I needed to do was cross the dance floor to reach him, but soon I was doing a pirouette. A man even lifted me into the air. By the time I finally reached the other side, Monsieur Degas was gone. "Hello, mademoiselle," the painter said as he looked over his easel. "I'm Monsieur Renoir. How can I help you?" I watched as Monsieur Renoir painted the dancing crowd behind me with short brush strokes of pure color. "Do you know where I can find Monsieur Degas?" I asked. "He went to Père Tanguy's shop to buy more paint," he said. "Paint?" I laughed and showed him what was in my bag. Monsieur Renoir didn't laugh. He took out the tube of black paint and said very seriously, "Did you know that the color black doesn't exist in nature?" "Then what color is my hair?" I asked. Monsieur Renoir pulled out the other tubes of paint. "Your hair is a touch of red and brown and yes, a little bit of green," he said. "Green?" I exclaimed. "Yes, I would use all of these colors if I were to paint your beautiful hair," he said. I looked closer at Monsieur Renoir's painting and noticed how he used many colors in order to capture each detail. "If you want to see more paints, you should visit Père Tanguy," Monsieur Renoir said. "He owns the best paint store in Paris. Perhaps he knows where Monsieur Degas is." "I must go now if I'm going to catch up with Monsieur Degas." I rushed to the paint store where I found Père Tanguy. "Is Monsieur Degas still here?" I asked. "Degas," he said with a sigh. "He is the only painter who pays me for paint. Did you know that all the other painters who come by my store pay me with paintings?" I looked at the stacks of paintings in his store. Sicily, Monet, Maurizio, Pisario. I have many of their original paintings here. Even one painted by Mary Cassatt. She's an American woman who paints in Paris. A lady who paints? I asked. Yes. Monsieur Degas just left to take her a tube of turquoise. If you hurry, perhaps you can still find him at her studio, he said. Thank you for your help, Père Tanguy, I said. And again, I ran off. When I reached the studio of Mary Cassatt, a young girl like me answered the door. Are you Mary Cassatt? I asked. No, I'm one of her models, the girl replied. Come right this way. Once in the sitting room, the model plopped back down lazily in the big blue chair where a woman continued to paint her. Mary Cassatt used the most beautiful shades of blue. Pardon me, Madame Cassatt, but is Monsieur Degas still here? I asked. You just missed him, she answered. He was off to the opera house to paint tonight's performance. I must find him first, I cried. I thanked Mary Cassatt and the girl and continued to hunt for Monsieur Degas. Time was running out. I ran through the streets of Paris and started across the bridge to the opera house. At the end of the bridge, I could see a man wearing a tall hat. At last, it was Monsieur Degas. I rushed toward him. Monsieur Degas? I asked shyly. So this must be your tutu, he said as he handed me my bag. You must have been looking everywhere for it. Thank you, Monsieur Degas, I said. I have searched all over the city for you. Here are your paints. Many thanks to you, mademoiselle, he said. Without these paints, I wouldn't be able to paint the recital tonight. Together we walked to the opera house. I told Monsieur about all I had seen and learned that day. I told him about meeting Monsieur Caillebotte, Monsieur Monet, Monsieur Renoir, Père Tanguy, and Marie Cassatt. We arrived at the opera house and said goodbye. I rushed backstage and changed into my tutu without even looking in the mirror. Monsieur Degas went to set up his easel. The orchestra began to play, and I leaped onto stage. I turned, and I twirled, and I jumped. I danced for all the special painters I had met that day, but most of all, I danced for my new friend, Monsieur Degas. After the recital, Monsieur Degas came backstage. He showed me the paintings he had begun. It's me, I exclaimed. You certainly were the star of the show tonight, Monsieur Degas said. Then he handed me his bag of paints. After today, I think these should belong to you. I took the brush and started to swirl and sway, and I watched as the colors danced and pirouetted around me.